Hello, I am Red, and today I thought I'd do a neat little video about how I made my ultimate theory on the future chapters of Deltarune. This is more like a behind the scenes kind of video, where I go over how I made the video, and then also what was my thought process while I was making the video. So I'm going to make the assumption that you have already watched this video, or at least watched a good part of it, I guess. Because it is an hour and 48 minutes, I wouldn't expect you to watch the whole thing. And this is more of like some extra stuff, like what did I not include in that video, what did I cut? And how did I sort of get to the way it is now? And then at the end, I'm going to go over some of the comments in the video, and make a few corrections on some of the mistakes I made. Which there are quite a few, I'll get over those. And then, well, other than that, I guess we can get started. So let's open up So this is the project folder that contains like everything I need to make the video. And this is the project file, 7 megabytes. Like, this is a 7 megabyte video project. It's huge. Like normally for a Vegas project, this would be like a few hundred kilobytes. This is 7 megabytes. You know it's a big video when it's that big. If you get what I'm saying. This is all the music I used, all the narration. And also the script is in here. I'm going to look at that a little later. And all the pictures. These are all the renders I made. I made like a lot of renders. 35 renders in total. Throughout the whole thing. All the sound effects. And all the videos I used. And this is not the whole thing. There's actually a few things from my explained playthrough series as well. If I go to here, I use a few videos. These are the recordings. These are my playthrough, like explained playthrough series. These are the original recordings from that. And my future chapter 3 pulls from this folder too. Hence the depends on one thing here. So well, I won't really get much if I just examine this. You know what's even better? I actually have a pretty neat setup here. I have this external hard drive here. Plug it into my computer. I have some stuff on it. So one of the things I do is I make a backup of everything. So it should pop up. There it is. So this is my backup drive. This is where I keep a backup of pretty much everything that's on this drive here, except for a few things. And in addition, and every time I run the backup, I have this revisions folder here. And then every time I make a backup, any files that I have changed or removed go in this folder. As you can see from all the backups I've done for like the last year or so, you can see there's quite a bit. This is how I'm going to look at my thought process throughout the videos, looking through these revisions here. Just go for this folder, like at the different steps I've done. Okay, so I started working on the video March 1st of 2023. Then this is the first day I made the video here. Go to projects. Actually, there's nothing on this date. Here should be the first one. Deltarune Explained Series, Future Chapter Theory. Alright, so this is the very first iteration of my script that I have on this folder. Let's take a look at it. So this is the first iteration of my script. I use LibreOffice Writer to write my scripts. And this is basically the first iteration of it. Like, it's literally just the intro. Like, this is something I wrote up in like, I don't know, like 20 minutes. And this is the first render that actually uses this script. This is basically the very first render of this video. It's only 44 seconds long. Let's look at it.
About a month or two ago, I posted a series of videos called the Deltarune Explained Playthrough Series, where I play through each chapter and each route of Deltarune, and explain much of the story, plot, themes, and characters as I played through the game. At the end of my chapter 2 main route video, I showed my super brief theory on what might happen in the next chapters of Deltarune. In this video, I will greatly expand upon the theory I showed in that video, and explain to you my answer to one of the Deltarune community's most burning questions: what's gonna happen in the next chapters of Deltarune? I'm Red, and let's get started.
As you can notice, the background is actually a little different on this. I actually did change the background at some point in the video. I'll get to that a little later. So that's literally the first iteration of the script. That was day 1 of me working on this video. March 1st, 2023. That's what I made in that video. The very day I started this project. Now let's move on to the next part. Let's go to March 5th. As you can see, we got a project now. I can open up the project file. Let's do that. This is literally just what the first project looks like. Something like that. Nothing much. Just a bunch of clips, a voice intro, some music. And this is the music note and then the videos. Let's go. And now we look at the second iteration of the script. So as you can see, this is actually a good bit different. I actually start with the video. I actually start with how I'm going to structure the video first. And I moved on to my theory methodology afterward, which is kind of weird. That's a lot different. And this was before I actually came up with the TEVX method. This was literally just 3 steps. You state the theory, you state the evidence, and then you explain why it supports it. It was literally just, here's 3 steps, follow them. There's no real name for it. And what's real interesting is that my example that I used chess theory as an example, instead of what I used in a real video, which was Chris's the Knight. And then I tried to, at least, explain what it is, and I just realized chess theory is a little too nuanced for such an example, so I decided to look for something else. So I'm going to move on to the next iteration. And then here's another one. As you can see now, I put the theories, now I go straight to the theories. Then I also changed this a little bit. This is still different from the final video, but it's pretty similar. The first part is different, but the last part is pretty much the same as the video. And then this is when I figured out the TEVX method. When I was thinking about this part, I was thinking, what should I name my methodology? I did get one comment saying that my methodology is pretty similar to CER, claim evidence reasoning, which is typically used in like science and all that. This method is pretty similar to that. And then what I wanted to do, I wanted to find a way to make it easy to know. Now, I was originally going to say just CER method, that was it. But I thought that would make the video a little too boring. So instead, I came up with a different way to remember the name. I came up with something a little different that sort of fit with Deltarune theory crafting a little more. So I came up with like, step 1 is theory, step 2 is evidence, step 3 is explanation. And I was thinking, what's a good way to remember this? Then I thought, what about the T method? The problem is there's 2 E's. How do you know which E stands for which? So I did. So I spread it out a little more. And there you go. TEVX. That's how I came up with that name. And let's continue going. This is the chapter theory structure. Start with the characters. Here's another thing. The order of the characters was actually initially going to be different. Now, how I was going to order the characters initially was I was going to start with Chris, and then I will go to Susie, then Rousey, and then at the end I'll explain Noelle. If you watch the video, you know that the structure is a little bit different. I did Chris first, then I did Noelle second, and then I did Susie and Rousey. Now I'll get to the reason why I switched up that order. It's not because I wanted to make Noelle blush when Susie shows up. That was actually something I came up with after I changed the order. Let's go to Chris. Now, this is my initial script for Chris. Now, Chris is a non-binary human teen who is the very character we control in game. Now, it isn't confirmed that Chris is non-binary, though, just ambiguous gender. So I was kind of wrong there. Good thing I changed that. I was going to talk about like Chris being friends with Noelle. That was something I decided to leave that for the Noelle section. The reason why I left this for the Noelle section is because to know that, I needed something from her blog, which didn't feel right to be introduced here. Okay, we have the occult thing that's in there. This is very rough. It's like the points are pretty similar, but it's just the writing is so much different. There's something I cut out. Chris has an interest in adventure, which is true, but I don't know, it didn't feel right to include in the script though. Alright, let's go to the next iteration. This was on March 5th. Now for the theory, now for the methodology, I use Chris as the Knight as the example. Now some people wondered why I used this example. I don't know, it was like the only thing I could think of. I know it's probably not going to be the case. It's very unlikely that Chris will be the knight, but it's more, I don't know, it's more like a devil's advocate kind of thing. As you can see, this is pretty darn close to what is final. These, still the original order of the characters. I guess I did a little more on Chris. I took out the Chris's Friends of Noel thing, so that was when I took that out. I had a hard time writing the Chris section. Chris was actually a pretty tricky one. I'll say that much. Actually, all these characters were kind of tricky. Not too much there. Alright, next iteration. Alright, this is March 7th. Mostly at this point of the journey, I was just writing the script. I wasn't doing any... I didn't really do too much in the editor. Alright, I fleshed out Chris a little more. I came up with... This is when I came up with, like how Chris technically talks in game, but doesn't actually show dialogue of it. The love-hate relationship with the player thing. Quite the interest in Susie. That's when I actually fleshed this out quite a bit more. I still have this, which I cut out. And I also had this. I actually originally thought that at some point in the future of Deltarune, Chris was gonna talk to us. Come with an agreement with us. That was my original thought. And then I kind of changed that. And then, down here, character part Susie. Now we can look at Susie. In terms of her backstory, we don't really have any backstory about her yet. So the best we can do is look at what she's like in game. Yeah, boy was I so wrong. There's actually quite a bit of backstory about her. I didn't discover that until I looked deeper into that section. Again, mostly just script. Next day. Now this is what it was like March 10th. And the intro and the methodology doesn't really change. Maybe I changed something here, but I don't know. Now I finally got the order I used in the final video of Chris, Noel, Susie, and Rousey. This is when I changed the order. And Chris is actually pretty developed out now. It's pretty close to what it is in the final video now. Oh, this is different though. There might be a scene where Chris could communicate with us, tell us what their goals are, maybe even tell us why they seek being possessed in the first place. I know this is getting into speculation/fan fiction territory a little bit. But think about it. If this were the case, this could explain a lot of ongoing mysteries about Chris. Oh yeah, I had some completely different idea. I had a completely different idea about what Chris could do in the future. Yeah, this is still not finalized. And also, this is the first iteration of the script where I started working on the Noel section. Oh wait, this. Oh, some part I cut out. An original plan I had back when I was gonna make this video, at the very start of this video, I was gonna do some dubbing. I was gonna do some character dubs as part of this. I was gonna do this in my Noel voice. I cut this out. Then we got backstory. Here's another thing I cut out, which I'll get to later. Now let's open up this project file here. Oh yeah, look at that, I fleshed it out quite a bit more. So as you can see, spoilers ahead. This is where I go into open the Fury Fountain, and this was just the intro part fleshed out. And for some reason I did something here. Did that. And then I surprisingly did for some reason I wanted to do something in chapter 7 here. I did it at the very start. Okay, next iteration. I'm ready, let's open the Fury Fountain. That's when I added that. This one I fleshed out the Noel section a lot more here. This is when I talked about her helplessness here. This is a pretty big part of her character. And yeah, this is actually pretty close to what the final is. It's embarrassing. One of the big mistakes I made in that video where I used the term redemption arc wrong? Yeah, I actually used character arc. I actually used the right term here. And I changed it to redemption arc later because I'm stupid. Alright, I'll address that in the mistakes later. Okay, here's the reason why I changed the order of the characters. I went from Chris, Susie, Rousey to Noel to Chris, Noel, Susie, Rousey. One of the parts of Susie's backstory requires knowing about Noel's blog. Because there's a post there's a post in her blog that talks about Susie's interaction with Chris in the classroom and all that, and like some of the things about her, about Susie. Now that is basically the main thing that made me change the order, because if I went with the original order, I would have to introduce Noelle's blog in the Susie section, which would have been weird. Yeah, it would be like I would have to do things like, okay, so here's a post from Noelle's blog. We'll get to more of these when we get to Noelle. I don't know, that just didn't sit right with me. So instead, I decided to move Noelle before Susie, so I can properly introduce her blog there, which would make a lot more sense. And then once I had to use Noelle's blog in the Susie section, the viewer would know about it, and I don't have to reintroduce it, which is perfect. And that ended up working out. And hey, after this, that was when I thought about doing that little blush. Yeah, it was a little cherry on top. Figuring that out. Oh shoot! Like this is when I started working on This is when I started working on the second part of the video. Yeah. So in this section, Noelle is mostly fleshed out. I worked on Susie a little bit. Not too much though. But for some reason, I moved on to doing the second part of the video, Chapter Fury. I was all over the place at this point. It's gonna take place in a TV/entertainment world. Like here, I explain like the first parts of like me using like the major character and side character methodology of the Dark Worlds. I actually started that like right away. So that's that part. And I actually fleshed out the structure. The chapter 4, 5, 6, 7 ending. Okay, next iteration. Oh, this is when I did some of the narration. So I did the helplessness section. There's no background for some reason, but yeah, because I changed that like halfway through. I did the helplessness section here. I put it at 10 minutes. Actually, pretty close to where it actually is. This part's about like 12 minutes in. You know this chapter 7 thing? I was thinking this was gonna go 30 minutes in the video, and if you've watched the final video, this part of the video is an hour and 40 minutes in. This section. I thought this video was gonna be like 40 minutes long initially. Then all of a sudden this video just exploded to like and then eventually it goes to an hour, and then it'll be an hour and 20, and then an hour 30, an hour 40, and then and that's how the video ended up that long. My predictions were really bad. Didn't even know how long this video was gonna be. Just as I kept writing more and more of that script, that video just got longer and longer. I guess that's the problem with like doing the script and then doing some of the video. Yeah, I guess if I just only did the script, I would have known how long the video was. Okay, let's go to the next iteration. Okay, March 17th. What is new here? Alright, we got a new script. I changed a few things in the Noelle section. I still kept this part in. I think most of what I did was fleshing out Chapter 3 a little bit. Oh boy, I did so much more here. Wow, I did like so much of Chapter 3. I did settings. This is when I figured out the structure for the future chapter. Yeah, I still did the existing character thing first. And then I did this part, which came first in the character section of the final video. And then I said it was going to be Mike, which is probably not going to be the case. It's probably going to be Tenna. Now that I think about it, now that a lot of people pointed it out. I even went into like the elements thing here. I had this figured out like pretty early on. Like a lot of Chapter 3 was written up pretty early. Like at least the main idea of it. Let's go to the next iteration, March 18th. So in this iteration of the script, I started working on Chapter 4 now. Like I was doing like a lot of this like right away. So settings, I mostly looked at the status update for that. Here's another thing I cut out. Now the thing is, I was mostly cutting out a lot of stuff where I was going off topic. Like, I was talking like some personal things. And I decided to cut that out. I was mostly cutting that out. Because again, it's off topic and it didn't really do well with the pacing of the video, which is what I was going for. I wanted the video to have pretty good pacing so that it can be comprehensible. Yeah. And oh, shoot. Here's another cut thing. I was originally going to have Spamton read this out as like evidence for like Chapter 4's Dark World. Now originally, here's another mistake I made in the video. I originally thought that easels was like a reference to like what Chapter 4's Dark World is going to be, where it was going to be art themed. A lot of people told me that this easel part references the swatchlings in Chapter 2. And yeah, I kind of I definitely was a little wrong here. That was another thing and again, I did this wrong because this was something that came up pretty early. Like, I thought of this, like, really early on. Yeah, screw that up. Here's another thing I cut out. This is, like, probably the most cracked up thing I've done. I really thought that Mike was actually a reference to the Microsoft Mike TDS voice. And if you know, Mike is actually a reference to, like, the Bake Shop commercial. It's referencing the Mike there. And not Microsoft Mike. What was I thinking? Okay, let's move on. I even did Chapter 5 a little bit. Which is interesting. I even went this far. So yeah, that was basically what I did here. I was just fleshing out the second part of the video for some reason. Because I was kind of dreading continuing on with the character section of Susie. Yeah, I was gonna need to do some research for that one. I guess I wanted to do something else. Alright, next iteration. Yeah, Chris was pretty much finished, but at the same time, needs that soul in their body to function. I could possibly see a scene in the future but the Chris section is pretty much finalized now. Then I even went into the Noelle section a little bit. Let's go to the next iteration. March 22nd. Oh, and this is the first time I started using the term redemption arc. Incorrectly. Yeah. And unfortunately, I kept that in pretty much all the way through. Look at that redemption arc. So mad at that, because it's like one of the dumbest mistakes I've made. Oh, I fleshed out Susie a little more. I think what I did here was just I just finalized the Noelle section. TDS! Oh ho ho ho, right. Spam line. So here's a cut section of the video. This was gonna be the part where I was gonna do this, and I was gonna use Microsoft Sam TDS voice for this. And this is what I did here. I was going down this crackhead theory kind of deal where Spamton is secretly like related to Microsoft Sam, and then Mike is Microsoft Mike. So anyway, this is that. Let's play it.
To me, friends, Chris, you and me are already
friend request accepted.
We don't need anyone else. We don't need
easels, CRTs.
We don't need any
man, woman, or child
at half price.
We don't need
Mike.
And there's the mic there using the actual Microsoft Mike voice. Yeah, oh boy, I cut that right out. I'm also going to show you another thing that I cut. I cut this part out, like where I went through, like how I was so fascinated with video game glitches and that. I was going to include this in the video. I'm going to show you this in the renders. I'm going to show you another part of the video that I've either cut, like one part that I've cut, and then one part that I've changed significantly. And glitches. Fascinating. I myself also find video game glitches fascinating. Whether I hunt them out myself like I did when exploring the Farlands in Minecraft, use them to my advantage, or when I stumble upon them by accident, some of which I still don't even know how it happened. Seriously, I still don't know what the heck happened here. Either way, there is a ton of interesting backstory about Noelle in these blog posts, which I will mention briefly. One of these blog posts makes a connection between her and Spamton. Spamton sent a spam email to Noelle containing a mod for Cat Pedders 2, one of her favorite games. She installs it to her game, and as a result, it leads to some really creepy and glitchy results. In one of her longer play sessions of Cat Pedders 2, she got an egg labeled Special, which never hashed into anything, persisted between a reinstall of the game, and at the end, left home due to happiness. In a post she made about the Ice Palace and Dragon Blazers, an RPG game she plays, she mentions going to the Ice Palace maze without a guide NPC, and getting stuck in there for hours not thinking it was a glitch. Then, she suddenly stumbled upon a door, which shocked her so much she unplugged the console. In subsequent playthroughs of the game, she was able to get right back to the door almost immediately if she concentrated. I'm guessing her experience in this maze is likely the reason why she feels nostalgic here. In one of her private posts, Noelle mentions how close she used to be to Chris, mentioning that Chris would come to her house almost every day to play the piano, and how she would just sit somewhere listening to them play. Considering that she and Chris both grew up together as neighbors, it makes sense. Also, there's, this in here too? That's about all I wanted to talk about for blog posts. So that was the original way that Noelle blog posts were gonna go. And as you can see, if you notice from the final video, it's way, way different in the final video. I didn't feel like, I think it was like halfway into the project, I felt that I didn't really do that part very well. There was a lot of parts of those blog posts that I left out. Let's move on to the next part of the video. Okay, so that's actually when I started doing the Susie section a little bit. For some reason I did the backstory first again. Like this is before, like this is the obvious stuff. I didn't even finish this part. And then yeah, I did this like so much differently. Yeah, Susie was like barely fleshed out here. Then I went into Rousey a little bit. Didn't have too much about him. Actually, this was pretty close to what it was. This was pretty close to none, actually. Albeit a lot differently than the final. I even went into the other section first. I did Birdley a little bit. Caddy, Joggington, Azrael, and Des. The order is a little different. I did Des like after Birdley, and left all the others after that. Alright, here's the next part of the video. I actually went into the Susie section a little bit here. Interesting. Oh no, I didn't do the Susie section. I finished the Noelle section. That's what I did. Again, I used redemption arcs. Ugh. Still mad at that. Okay, so this was when I finalized the first half of the video, the first half of the script. Okay. Now if I go to Susie here, this is when this is the final structure. I did what they're like in game first this time. And this is all pretty much finalized. And then I did the backstory. Then what might happen to them in the future. Boom. Yeah, this is actually all finalized. Yeah, I think I did pretty much the whole thing. There's a few things that are a little different, like there's a part of the Birdley section that's missing. There's some parts in the Noelle section that are missing. But otherwise, this is pretty much the first half of the script. So that was April 2nd on the backup. And this was as of the 2nd of April. Okay, so this is when I made some changes to the Noelle section. So what I did here is I completely redid the blog posts. Like, I completely rewrote it. Like, that's what this bold text is here for. Like, I made this bold so I can know what to read. And then here, and then I also added a few more things here. This is all like, a lot of the bold stuff that I have here. A lot of this was, another thing I left out of that Noelle section initially was a lot of the escapism things. Like how she finds the Dark Rolls interesting. I left those, like, I forgot to include these in my original iteration of the section. And then this is where I added that. That's these two things here. I think I even changed up like the part where I explained about the mayor. Is there anything else I did change? Okay, there was one thing I forgot to, there's another thing I forgot in the Rousey section. I forgot about the Acid River scene, where Rousey was figuring out how friends work, essentially. That part of the game. But otherwise, that was what I changed. And I also did the chapter. I also did the part where I explained the chapter by chapter. This is actually still not finalized yet. I guess I was basically I was halfway into the video. I was just fixing up a lot of the first half. That's essentially what I was doing. Okay, let's go to. I wanted to see what I did here. Okay, this is when I was editing the Noelle blog posts. So you know those peepus things, the original thing you saw? This was me deleting all those pictures. I was essentially redoing the entirety of the blog post section. Oh boy, was that hard to do. Like that was probably the hardest thing to edit in that whole video, was that, it was that section, like that one section, like Noelle's, blue circle post. That was probably the hardest thing to edit in that whole video. Again. Actually, the Noelle section in general. Like, that section was a pain to edit. Yeah, let me see what else do I have. I'm mostly just discovering this with you guys. Okay, I'm in the TevX section. Okay, yeah, this is definitely when I changed the blog posts. Well, it's the one who is writing these blog posts. So it turns out, when I changed the video background now. So if you notice in those previous renders, the video background was a little different. Now, I've got the final video background in. Now the reason why I changed the video background was because like that previous video background had like there's a lot of compression artifacts in that. As you can see, look at all the compression artifacts in this background. Like, look at how bad it is. As you can see, that's how I changed, and that's why I changed it to this new one. And plus, it looks a little better. This was me just fleshing out the first half of the video. Like, I was only able to do like be in this for like 20 or 30 minutes at a time, and then I had to move on to school stuff. Like, I was hit so hard by this year with school. Okay, let's move on to the final. Now, I finished school 22nd of April. That was the date of my last exam. And once I finished that exam, I had no school anymore. I was basically from that point all the way until the video released, I was all in on this video. I spent so much time working on this, like 4 or 6 hours a day working on this video. And now I'm in that part. Now we're in that part of the project when I can just purely focus on finishing this video. And this is when I finally started working on the second half. So I fleshed out chapter 3 mostly. I actually had this done like before I ended school. Like, this was pretty much written out. I just needed to, like, I think the day I finished my last exam was when I recorded chapter 3 and started editing it. Now chapter 3 pretty much done. Then chapter 4, this is when I finally came up with the section names of this. And I took out the TDS thing. I realized how stupid that was, and I got rid of it. I even went into chapter 5 a little bit too. Chapter 5 was still structured completely differently to what it is on the thing. This part's pretty similar to one of the sections, but this was before I came up with the puzzle piece method. Yeah, I was having a hard time structuring chapter 5. I think chapter 3 and 4 were pretty close to done. I was still there were still things like I still need to do in chapter 4. I worked on chapter 5 a little bit. This was like the section where I was talking about how Rudy is probably gonna die in the game. I actually had this really written out. I really went far with this. Spider Mike's fan animation. Thank you for making that, by the way. Actually, Spider Mike commented on my video. That was awesome. That was wholesome. I love that. Okay, and then chapter 6, it was like, you can definitely tell. I mean, you're gonna have to pause to read this, but this was just, like, that was rough. Like, I was just super rough. I had the Harry Potter thing here figured out. Like, I actually had that figured out really early, like around March 20. Like, I even did a little bit on here. Here's another part I cut from the video. I was gonna talk about the ending, and I'll talk about this a little bit after. Then I actually had like the video structured out. It was just the writing was just the writing was just extremely rough, essentially. And let's see what I did in the project. I was doing some weird stuff in the second half here. I actually thought about the songs I was going to use for each of the chapter sections. I thought about using the Gaster song from Delta Traveler, like something from Valhalla, and then some of my own songs in here. And this is when I moved the Titan section to 1.5 hours. You know, the final video, that's even further back. It's actually pretty close to where it actually is. It's still like 10 more minutes back. Okay, I want to go to when I did the puzzle piece strategy. So this is what the script was like, April 29th. Freaking GeForce Experience day. April 29th, so chapter 4 is finalized. And there's the puzzle piece strategy. This is when I fleshed that out. In this section of the video, I was trying to find a way to structure my my theories for chapters 5, 6, and 7. Because if you know, there is like very little information about these about these chapters of Deltarune. Like, there's basically nothing. So what I did, I made a strategy called the puzzle piece strategy, to find a way to structure the final chapters of the game, using a little speculation in that. That's what I used here. So what I did is I include some theories. I do some like Tevex crafted theories to find a way to order them and place them in certain chapters. And this is when I came up with that strategy. And that's what I use in the final video. Okay, Deltarune intro. I go for the puzzle pieces, then chapter 1, Rudy's passing. Then we got the night, then the roaring. Like, I basically had chapter 5, like the moment I figured out the puzzle piece strategy, I had chapter 5 done just like that. And chapter 5 was a long section. I think most of it was because I wanted to talk about like Rudy's passing. And this is that part that references Spider Mike's video on what if Noelle lost her way. A lot of this video, and I'm gonna admit something here. This was probably one of the big reasons why I made this video in the first place. Was because of this. Was because I had this in my mind for the longest time. I really wanted to show it. I just really wanted to get this out there. Because it's just, I found it so cool to include something like this. To edit this together and to make it something that'll be super fascinating. Because I just wanted this out. And then yeah, these other two, and then we got the roaring. I was thinking that was end of chapter 5. Yeah, chapter 5 was pretty much fleshed out. Okay, and then what about the project? The project is at 6 megabytes now. Okay, so this is when I did chapter 5. Because how far did I go here? Okay, I got to just before the Rudy section. So this is when I did the first part of chapter 5. So this is when I edited out the puzzle piece strategy. I also even edited this part out. Like, I edited my transition part into the roaring section. This is when I did that. Like, I did that here. Of the roaring. It's laggy. The roaring is a cataclysmic event that will happen if... So yeah, that's when I did the roaring section. That's why you can see how that's done. I played around the velocity a lot. This is actually pretty fun to make, although it takes like forever to render. Like, I think this takes like 5 minutes just to render this part on my computer. Yeah, I did more fancy stuff for the particles. Chapter 7 section a little bit. This ending section, which I cut out, which I'll get to. Alright, now if we go to the script here, this is May 2nd. I think this is when I started on chapter 6. See, I think I fleshed out chapter 6 a lot more. Okay, so this is what my video looked like on the 2nd of May. So this is when I finished chapter 5. Like when I had this completely fleshed out. And I was trying to work, and I was doing some work on chapter 6. This is when I got to here. I was going ham on this. I essentially did, I started, on the 22nd of April, I started here. And then May 2nd, which I believe is 10 days, and in 10 days, I scripted out, narrated, and edited all the way to here. This is 40 minutes of video here that I'm talking about. I did all of that in 10 days. You know how much on the grind I was. I was really on the grind. I was so determined to get this video done. And I'm done school. I don't have to worry about that crap anymore. And I just wanted to do it. And then that's pretty much it, I think. Now we can finally look at the final project. Right, here's the final. Now I'm gonna open up the final script. This is the narration section. This is all the narration I did. There's a lot of files here. 69 items in this folder. Nice. And here's the final script for the video. Here it is. 21,217 words. 115,000 characters. Oh, and also the intro's different. I think I changed that. I don't know when I changed that. I think it was in chapter 5 somewhere. Yeah, there you go. And this is the whole script. Every single page. So chapter 6 is pretty much fleshed out. Chapter 7 is also fleshed out. And here's the final part. This is all final. There are a few parts in the script that I've cut out of the video. Otherwise, this is the whole thing. And then now, we can do the final thing. we're gonna open up final project. There you go. That's the final project. All 1 hour and 48 minutes of it. And oh boy, was that a fun video to make. There was a whole, I did a lot. And then this is when I finished, fleshed out the final parts. Chapter 6, Chapter 7, and the outro over here. There you go. That's the whole video. From start to finish. This is the final result. This was the video. This was the project that the final video was rendered off of. Yeah, and this was pretty much done on the 6th of May is when I finished this. The 7th of May I did a few changes, mostly just fixing a little bit of editing issues and all that. And then May the 7th I uploaded the video to YouTube and scheduled it for the following day. And the rest was history. And as you can see, as of June the 15th, the video sits at 76,000 views. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm still, like, completely in shock that the video got this much attention. Like, I'm still actually kind of shocked that it did. That this video performed the way it did. But I mean, some part of me wasn't surprised. I knew that a lot of people wanted to see something like this. At the same time, seeing it actually happen is a whole lot different than expecting it. Like, thank you guys. I thank you so much for all the support. I'm so happy that this video that I spent 2 months on, probably around 200 hours, got this much attention. So glad. I'm so happy about that. Oh yeah, there's one more thing that I want to explain. You know that ending part? I mean, I actually kind of explained this in the video. That ending part that I cut out, that I was originally going to include in the video, that was what became my Choice Fury video. And that this is the video right here. I came up with some new ideas to make it comprehensible, and it just felt right, including it as its own video. So well, there you go. That was essentially my thought process for the entirety of my future Chapter Fury video. All 2 months of it. And as a little bonus, let's open up the thumbnail. So yeah, I make my thumbnails in Vegas for some reason. It just feels right. Because I can flesh this out easier. Because I have lots of experience doing this program. Might as well make the thumbnails in here too. Because I can just click this save icon and I can save a PNG of it. And that was essentially the thumbnail. So the thumbnail is all of this. And that was it. I made that in about 20 minutes. Video was up. And it got all that, and it got all those views. Thank you guys. Okay, so that was how I made the video. So now, I'm gonna go for the comments and sort of address a few of the problems I've made in this video. So a little while back, like a few days after I made the video, I've made this pinned comment. I was getting that. I was happy that the video was getting so much attention, that the Fury was getting out to a lot of people, and I was so happy about that. And then but this pinned comment wasn't really about that, it was about addressing some of the mistakes that I made in the video. Obviously, the first one I made, I referenced this a couple times, I used the term redemption arc incorrectly. Redemption arc is supposed to be like if a character starts out bad, and then they arc to the good side, essentially. I was using that wrong. So what I really meant when I used redemption arc in that video was I actually really meant to say character arc. Another thing I did, I made the mistake that the festival is going to happen the day after Chapter 2. Which was wrong. The game did not mention anywhere that it was going to happen tomorrow. Yet I fell into that assumption anyway. Although technically it could still happen the day after Chapter 2, it isn't explicitly mentioned that it will. And I should also mention that another thing I made, I assumed that there was going to be a light world section in Chapter 3. There's a lot of people that mentioned that Chapter 3 is just going to be the TV world and that's it. There's going to be no light world section. The light world section that would have been in Chapter 3 is going to be pushed to Chapter 4 instead. I'm not sure exactly if it'll be the case, but, you know. Number 3, a lot of people said that Mike probably isn't going to be the main antagonist of Chapter 3, according to the Spamton Q&A and the page on the sweepstakes. Again, this was something, Mike being the main antagonist, I thought of that like really early on. And then I just stuck with it. And I think if I took another, and then I would have said Tenna if I took another read at that part. If I went, Okay, I'm gonna go to that page now. The language here, it says, that damn boob tube. You're the one that should be having a refreshing night's thing. That damn boob tube mentioned, this is pretty similar to, like, dang you, Tana. And essentially the wording here assumes that this is referencing the TV. And a lot of people think that the main antagonist of Chapter 3's Dark World is gonna be the TV, Toriel's TV. And in the link up here it says Tana. And that's essentially what it is. That's why a lot of people think it's gonna be Tana. So that's another mistake I made. Okay, lastly, I didn't include anything about the vessels. Same thing why I didn't include Gaster and all that stuff. It was good. So now let's go read some comments. Manslaughter pointed something out pretty good here. It says something that I missed something in my Susie analysis. Mostly just thinking that a lot of the rudeness that she has was like a facade. Like the external part of her character is just her being mean and that. Really what happened through her arc is that facade sort of faded, and that a lot of that Susie's true feelings and true colors sort of shine through. I think that's a good way to do that. There was another comment that mentioned, it says that Chapter 3 and 4 will occur on the same day. I was thinking this was something I talked about too, but there's another piece of evidence that I missed. There's a piece of evidence here that this guy's hat here, it actually grows. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. It's that this little guy's hat here actually grows 1 pixel taller every single day, which is interesting. Okay, if we go to Chapter 1, as you can see, this little guy's hat is at this level. And then if we go to Chapter 2, which I think is this one, I think it's a pixel taller, but it's hard to tell. Some people say that this is 1 pixel taller, even though I can't really... It's hard for me to tell, because to me it looks the same. And this is Chapter 2. But in this picture, it is a little taller. Just a teensy-weensy bit taller than in Chapter 2. And this is Chapter 4. Some people are using this to determine how many days have passed since, like, the beginning. So Chapter 1 was a little shorter. Chapter 2, the hat was 1 pixel longer. And then this day, and then Chapter 4, the hat is 1 pixel taller yet again. And people are using that to determine how much time has passed, how many days have passed since like the beginning of the game. And I've used that to determine that Chapter 4 actually takes place the day after Chapter 2. So that's why a lot of people are thinking that Chapter 3 and Chapter 4 are going to be on the same day. That means that my theory that Rudy and that Noelle and possibly Rudy are going to be in the church on that day. And in my 3 video, I mentioned that Chapter 4 is probably going to be in the church because of some Spamton line mentioning Rose and Graves. Now there are some other things that point to a church role that I missed. Spamton mentions communion a lot, typically what you would use in church. And then like some other things like the Sky Mantle, there's like an unused Sky Mantle in the game too, that could make reference to it as well. So yeah, there's actually a few more things that reference church. And it's not just the Rose and Graves line. Let me see. A lot of people think Mike is the secret boss. I don't know, maybe. So again, yeah, here's a comment that says that talked about easels referring to Spotch. That's another assumption I did wrong, so Chapter 4 probably isn't going to be art themed. I don't know why I fell to that assumption. Yeah. A lot of people, I got a lot of praise that the editing is so good, this was the best Fury video I've ever watched. I found it odd that he didn't talk about Rousey the rest of the video, despite him admitting about he doesn't know what being himself is. That's another thing I missed. One of the things in Rousey's character development was him realizing, him trying to find himself. And this person mentions that I missed talking about how would Rousey and Toriel interact in Chapter 3. Now, I kind of didn't include that part because I wasn't sure how it was going to play out. I think that was something I was going to think about, but I didn't really know how to put it in. And obviously, I was steering away. I was trying to steer from speculation as much as possible. So that's why I didn't include that. Because having to do something like that, there's going to be a lot of speculation there. And that's why I didn't feel like doing that. I think it's so on me, lots of evidence and interesting takes. Thank you. Chapter 5 could take place in Noelle's house. If that's the case, then it would be so cool since her blocks about the cat petter glitches, the egg, icy, and the secret door would be all foreshadow what we might see. Noelle also mentions she likes scary things in Chapter 2, which I mentioned, so the 5th chapter being the scariest would work perfectly. Maybe at that point something might happen to all the eggs we've collected, left due to happiness, or maybe we could see the man behind who the man behind the tree is. This is probably the least likely, but it would be cool to see different versions of Susie appearing in this dark world, assuming Noelle has anything that resembles Susie at her house. That'd be cool. This is another theory that I came up with after I posted that video. I was thinking like, what if I had to think about what could be in Chapter 5's Dark World? I was thinking that that Dark World was going to be Noelle themed. Like it was going to have stuff relating to the cat petters, glitches, the egg, icy, and dragon blazers. I was thinking that Chapter 5 is going to be like that. Getting to know more about Noelle. But I could definitely see this being the case, especially with the blog posts and all that. Sort of, and seeing those as being foreshadowing for a future Dark World. That would be so cool. Obviously, this is all speculation, of course. Next comment. Nautilus. If we go for speculation time regarding Mike, they could be an extended reference for Mike TV from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The character is also really into cowboys and toy guns, so that matched with the possible discarded cowboy outfits. Not sure if that would make Mike the main villain, the secret boss, or the mini-boss. So interesting, Mike TV from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Oh yeah. So you know in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, there's gonna be some spoilers here for that. There's Mike is one of the kids. And then one of the things that happens is that Mike wanted to go into the TV. Like, go into the machine, he shrinks himself into the TV, and then he's in there, and then had to do then I guess some weird stuff had to happen for him to get out the TV. So yeah, that's like full-on speculation. I don't think that'll be the case, though. That would be pretty neat. Okay, editing's so good, thank you. I love the attention to detail, like Noelle blushing when Susie comes on screen in the in-character introduction. Yep, some people did notice that. I'm so happy that some people did. It was just that tiny little touch that I added. It just made the video just a little better. One thing to mention from the Spam to Neil fight. The shooter mode, we'll follow up on that with different soul colors. I didn't talk about the soul colors either. Again, there's a lot of speculation in that though. This was amazing to watch, thank you. I have this idea that I got from a dream though, it is still very likely. I think Chapter 4 will be a chapter about quests to help various characters with things. Mostly because of the whole papyrus stuff in Metaton, or Napstablook as they might be called, Hapstablook. Requesting something entertaining. I did mention that in the video. Along with the rapidly growing castle town. Maybe the secret bosses will get a room in the castle since they're decently important. Maybe. The mayor could be a major character in Chapter 4, assuming it takes place in the church. Maybe something happened to Rudy that pushed her to go in and pray. On top of that, it would be a good occasion for Noelle to have her second character arc, and is fitting for the idea of Rudy tagging in Chapter 5. Yeah. Others are using it wrong. Yeah, that's why I'm so angry about it. It's not that I made a mistake, it's that I've prompted some other people to make the same mistake I did. So about the words you told us all in the end and how we're awesome. Buddy, look at yourself. You made a literal near 2-hour-long video and enjoyed doing it. You are a madman with awesome ideas. Seriously, this was a blast and the music picking is right on tune. But I'm funny fun. Jokes aside though, I seriously enjoyed this and hell, you even gave me an idea for my interpretation of Chapter 4, so thanks for that too. Just, mad respect to you man, and God bless. Take all the time in the world for a break. You damn earned it with your hard work. Kudos to you, buddy. It's been a hell of a ride. Great job. Thank you, Tony. Alright, this is another thing I got. The TEVX method I mentioned in a video doesn't examine counter evidence. And then this person essentially goes to how it could be used to make some super cracked theories. So yeah, I missed the counter evidence. That was something I fixed in my choice free video. Like, when I was mentioning about like Deltarune having multiple endings, when I did use TEVX to go for that, but I added the counter evidence to it. Just to consider like How strong is this Fury? So this was actually a pretty good idea. So, Tyson Dennis. I'm sure Dennis' disappearance is what caused everything to fall apart. Caused Rudy to fall ill, Asgore to get fired, Noelle to become even more timid, Carol to become more strict, etc. And also for the Dreamer and the Holiday family to split apart too. That's another thing to add. I'm also a believer in December Night, Death being the night. And I'm sure that the roaring will happen, but the world will be immediately doomed. You don't have to face and either pacify, re-imprison, or kill the Titans. Just the mention of the Titans tells us that we have to fight them sometime soon. So again, yeah. So what I thought about the Titans, that this was like a foreshadowing for a future part of the game, similar to how, like in Undertale, Toriel mentions Asgore pretty early on, and then, if you know from that game, like, eventually you do have to fight Asgore in order to progress into that game. It's interesting. So Death's disappearance is definitely like the main part of the conflict here. Oh, here's the Spider Mike one. I don't know why it's so low down. I appreciate the shout out for my animations. I definitely think Rudy dying in a future chapter would be a powerful event to contribute to the main characters' arcs. I'm also really curious to see how the official story will develop these characters, especially Noelle's. So again, I'm going to reiterate a few things I said before. That's one of the things I want to see most out of this game. I'm fairly invested in Noelle as a meaningful and important character, and I also want to see how she develops, and how she plays a role in the future chapters. I'll admit quite a bit of the effort that went into this video was explaining, developing, and predicting Noelle's character and arc, to show the potential that she has in the game. If you don't already know, Noelle is my absolute favorite character in this game. Not only because of how important she is, but also I just somehow relate to her way too much. And Spider-Man says, thank you. I worked hard to make that vid as decent as it could be, so I'm always glad when people get anything out of it. Congrats on how well your vid is doing as well. It's great to see your hard work pay off. Thank you, Spider-Mike. I can't thank you enough for that animation, Spider-Mike. Oh, that was an awesome animation. That completely changed how I thought about the future of Deltarune. Was that animation? That's what really got me thinking about what's gonna happen next. And I thank you for that. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to watch. Okay, here's some other things to point out. Even though this claim is based on speculation, I'm not sure what this is. Since this is a theory video, I'm going to say you shouldn't have ruled out the possibility of this segment still existing in the game completely. Oh yeah, this was the Wild West, a Wild West section of the game. There being the thing where it says get ready for 2 minutes of shootout action, a certain part of that game. And I said I ruled it out because of the thing that was said in the newsletter. It says, in the teaser with the Shadow Man, they aren't wearing detective outfits, rather they're inspired by mafia outfits. Similar to the Shadow Men themselves, plus 10 having a crew who apparently track people down. It's quite likely that Chapter 3 is going to have a lot of mafia references. Technically, it is still a crime investigation kind of deal. There's still, something with crime and all that. I mean, it was a small thing that was alluded to in, Chapter 2, where Susie says, just committing crimes. I wonder if that's foreshadowing for that, now that I think about it. But yeah, and this is the easels part. Yeah. Good. Bro created a full-on research paper with a full research method and everything. Thank you. Tevex sounds like something a company would name themselves. Yeah, that's... I can see that. I can see that being a shipping company. Because we have, there's, FedEx. And then now we have, FedEx's twin, Tevex. Funny. And Rootstad drops a bit, that's true. That's talking about Susie. Otherwise, I think that's it. Yeah, no Vessel. I didn't include Vessel. Same reason why I didn't include Gaster in the video. So, well, I think that's it. So, I think that's a good time to end it. I hope you found that pretty insightful, just to see, what I really thought while I was going through this 2-month-long project. And, well, that's it. Hope you like it. And thanks for all the support that y'all gave me this last month. So happy right now. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching this video.